Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today and welcome to this educational presentation of an entry technique that I've personally been using in my own trading for over 40 years now, actually going on 41 years this summer. So I'm going to show you how simple it is to really trade using this entry technique, and you can apply this to virtually any market, any time frame, and in any direction. Now let me start out by showing you how most traders trade and how most people enter into the market. Here's an example here. We're looking at CVS, and this was just coming into this past month of February. As we can see, this stock was going straight up, and at this point, we have this sell-off where we open lower, but then close very high. A lot of traders would think this was the type of a gap opening that was an exhaustion gap to the downside, but and more likely, it's a reversal, and you should probably buy on this. So let's say a lot of traders, go to chat rooms or they look on TV and saying this was actually a good close here, closing towards the top of its range. I think that this is actually a buy. So you step in there and buy. Maybe you buy calls. Maybe you actually buy the stock. And then this happens. Okay? Look familiar to anybody? This is the way I would probably assume that most traders trade. I know when I first started trading 4 decades ago, this is the way I used to trade because we're always taught to buy low and sell high, right? And so when something gaps down that strongly and then closes very nicely, that's usually a sign that it's going back up. Well, I'm going to share with you a extremely simple technique today. Only has actually a couple of rules in it that will actually generate signals like this. As we look at letter H here, we see that obviously in hindsight, it's been going up since October. I'm going to show you how you could have entered here, here, and even here using this simple entry technique, okay? So once again, thanks for joining us today, and I'm going to share with you everything that's been generated on our new PTS Primo charting platform. This is the educational platform that teaches you how to listen to the markets, because it's our belief that most traders fail because they're listening to someone else. They're actually listening to some guy in a chat room, some trader on TV that's supposed to know everything, even somebody in a webinar. But this is teaching you how to listen to the markets so that the chart in front of you is giving your all your answers for entries, exits, and stop placement, as opposed to someone or something else. So once again, this promises to be a great presentation. Welcome once again. My name is Steven Primo, president and founder of Specialist Trading. As I stated, I've been trading for over 4 decades now. I started my career on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. I was on the floor for a total of 16 years. 9 of those years I was a specialist. That's where we get the name Specialist Trading. Now, if you're not familiar with what a specialist does, it doesn't mean you're any more special than anyone else. It just means that you basically were making markets in roughly 50 or 60 stocks. So if your floor broker who represented you wanted to buy or sell a particular stock, he had to go to the trader who specialized, who made markets in that particular stock. So I did that for roughly about 9 years. I traded and was a specialist making markets during the crash of 1987 and the bull market that followed. So just about every market environment you can think of, every trade strategy or trade system you can think of, I've traded. So I know what works over my 4 decades, what works in terms of consistency, and I know what absolutely does not work. So I'm here to teach you. I formulated Specialist Trading with Pro Trader Strategies about 8 years ago, where all I do is teach and mentor students around the world in over 110 countries and in virtually every state in the United States, all the things I've accumulated in my 4 decades that have stood the test of time, things that have high levels of consistency. Because this is what trading is really about. It's not about some fly-by-night system that costs $5,000, $10,000 and generates great results maybe 1 year, but then gives them all back. What we're trying to do is instill consistent methods within you so that you can be trading 10, 20, 30, possibly 40 years down the road. So this promises to be a great presentation, but as always, before we begin, we are required by law to show you this. So please take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to show you a lot of performance results by applying this simple entry technique, but please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. And please remember that all examples are strictly for educational purposes only. So as you're taking a brief moment to view our required disclaimer, I would also like to take this time to invite each and every one of you, if you haven't done so already, to follow us also on Twitter. There's our handle right there, abbreviation for Specialist Trading. You may want to copy that down so that you can see what we've posted on a daily basis. Every day I post different things, from little bits of financial wisdom along the way to actual signals that some of our strategies have generated. In fact, I posted a really nice one of some strategies that were generated by one of our, or some signals, I should say, that were generated by one of our strategies. I believe strategy number 5 today. So lots of great free information. Feel free to follow us on Twitter. Now, as I stated at the very beginning of this presentation, we're a little bit different from other webinars you may have attended in the fact that we are first and foremost an educational company. As you see here, our goal is not to force feed you signals. Our goal is not to sell you the most extravagant system there is and promise you all these thousands of percent that you're going to generate in the first year. We don't believe in that. Our goal is simply to teach you how to trade with a specialist edge. When I was first trading some 41 years ago, I struggled tremendously. And I was lucky enough to have some mentors on the floor that taught me the same things that I teach to my students around the world. And I truly believe that these are the things that they taught me that have sustained me for over 4 decades now. And hopefully they'll be able to sustain you as well. So what we're all about is teaching you first and foremost. We're not about, telling you how to trade. In fact, we don't believe in that. We believe that our job is just simply to provide you with information that has stood the test of time, work and mentor you so that you can pick and choose from all the things we provide for you so that you can construct your own trading plan and make your own trading decisions. Okay, that's the only way, in my opinion, one becomes a consistent trader. Okay, so we're going to conduct this as if it is a classroom since we are an educational company, but please remember that if you have any questions, we don't want to stop at each slide because we have a number of slides to share with you. If we stop at each slide the way some other presenters do, we may be here for a very long time. So in order to keep this up and running, we'll take the questions at the very end of today's class, okay? So if you have a question, write it down and try to remember it. And the only question I will answer is the most common one, and that is this being recorded? I see that some people are already asking this question. Yes, it is. So if you're having technical difficulties, if you can't see or hear the screen, maybe oftentimes if you log off and then log back on, everything will be corrected. Or oftentimes it's your own internet connection. But if you still can't see or hear everything clearly, we will send you a link to this recording. Everyone will get a link to this recording. So if you have to leave early as well, we will also provide you with a link. So if you just happen to join us, once again, we have a really good crowd here today. Please wait till the end of this presentation to ask any questions, probably in the next half hour to 40 minutes, okay? All right, so let's begin. And what are the entry technique requirements for this? Okay, because remember, there's always, rules to any method or any technique. Remember, as we say here, this is not a system I'm going to be sharing with you. This is simply an entry technique. In other words, one piece of the plan, one piece of the puzzle. But oftentimes, entry techniques can come with 3 or 4 different rules. Well, let me share with you how simple this is. We're only going to use one thing, and that's the PET-D. Now, you've heard me talk about this before. I've been using this tool every day for about 4 decades now with my trading. I used it this morning with my trading, my personal trading prior to giving this presentation. This is how powerful and how simple this particular tool is. But a lot of you, even though I've given lots of presentations on how powerful and how useful the PET-D is, a lot of you still are unaware of it. So let me share with you what the PET-D exactly is. All right, remember we talked about how everything comes from the chart in front of you, how you must learn to listen to the market. Well, the PET-D is a tool that translates what the market wants to do. So if you're learning how to listen to the market, this is the best tool I know of that simply translates what it wants to do. Think of the market as a great friend or someone you have that you really like but doesn't speak English very well, and you need someone to translate what your friend is saying to you. That's what the PET-D does. You see, the market is your friend. The market is always telling you it wants to go higher. The market is always telling you it wants to go lower, or it's simply telling you it wants to go sideways. But we've never been trained to listen to it. We've never been taught the language. Sure, we've always been taught a ton of indicators, or what some guy in a chat room is saying, or what some technician is saying on TV that's supposed to know everything, or what the earnings are supposed to mean. But remember, those are all outside sources telling you how the market's supposed to react. Why not just listen to the market itself? Well, the PET-D is the tool that translates what the market wants to do. And therefore, you don't need to listen to all those things. You can really simplify your trading and simply concentrate on what the PET-D is telling you. Now, here's the way it works. It's a formula that I was taught roughly 40 years ago on the floor that is a little bit cumbersome, although it can be done, but it's something that you have to do by hand, and it can get a little difficult along the way. We've taken all the hard work out for you, so we've constructed the PET-D into a proprietary color bar algorithm. So all you need to do is look at the color of the bars. It's automatically done for you. So when you see a series of green bars, the PET-D is telling you that the market wants to go up. The trend is up. When you see a series of red bars, the PET-D is translating that the market wants to go down. As we look at this real world example here in Aetna, we see that the market was going straight up. And so you think, well, God, this is great. Maybe I'll get into this stock. I'll buy it, or I'll buy some options on this. And then look what happens. How could we have known, at least if we were in this, to get out? Not at the top, because the PET-D is not a predictive tool. It doesn't tell you how high or how low something will go. It doesn't say anything about that. It just translates what the market wants to do at that moment. So all you have to do is simply add the PET-D, okay? Now the PET-D, once again, colors the bars green if you're in a short-term uptrend, colors the bars red if you're in a short-term downtrend. Now the PET-D is not a system. It's not a trading strategy. But the beauty of the PET-D, as you see here, is that it tells you which direction you should be trading. And once you know that, then you can apply virtually any strategy, any technique, any method to that direction, and we strongly feel it will increase your odds for consistency. So what a great tool to have. You no longer have to listen and try to decipher what the earnings are going to be. But how many times have you seen earnings reports come out and you think they're great and then the stock goes straight down? Or how many times have you gone to a chat room and someone just loves a particular issue or market or future and says, this is major support, it's got to stop here, we're all buying at this support level, and then it goes right through it to the downside or right through it to the upside, some major resistance, okay? Or some pundit on TV is telling you what they think of a particular market and it does the exact opposite. So you don't have to decipher that anymore. Make your trading simple by focusing on the one thing you should only be listening to, and that's the chart in front of you. That's the source of what you're trading. Everything comes from the source, from the chart you're trading, so that's the thing you should be listening to, okay? All right, so here's the entry technique I want to share with you, just simply by applying the PET-D. We would say literally dozens of ways to apply the PET-D. The PET-D can be used as a stop placement type of technique. It can be used as a number of ways to confirm your signals for any strategy, any method. It can also be used, as you're going to see here, as an entry technique. There are literally dozens of ways to apply it, and we teach this in our courses. So the beauty of the PET-D is not trying to decipher and figure out what it's based on, because I can almost guarantee you if we told you what this formula was, you'd probably still lose money. Because the beauty of the PET-D is knowing and how to apply it properly to your trading. So I'm going to show you just one of the many ways in which you could apply the PET-D to your trading. Once again, there are literally dozens of ways to use it. All right, here's the buy setup. And remember, this can be applied to any market, any time frame, any direction. Now, in an uptrend, when you see prices going up, you'll every once in a while see a small amount of red bars. This will appear from time to time. Now, the very next green bar that occurs is your confirmation for a buy entry. So in other words, the red bars are simply a pullback or a retracement. Now, first green bar is the bar that gives you confirmation to get in. So let's look once again at this example in letter H. As we can see, we are going higher. All right, we're in an uptrend. Once we apply the PET-D, and as we stated earlier, we're looking at our PTS Primo charting platform. It's as simple as simply clicking on the PET-D right here, and all the colors will be changed automatically to green or red. The PET-D will only color the bars either green or red. So as you can see, we're in an uptrend. We have our first red bar, and then the very first green bar that appears after that generates a buy signal. Now, prior to this nice gap up, prior to this amazing upward move, we knew the price was going up. We don't know how high it's going up or for how long, but we knew it was going higher, not because of some earnings estimation, not because of some guy in a chat room, but because of the market was telling us, as translated by the PET-D, that it wanted to go higher. See how simple trading can be when you get out of your own way? Okay, so the market continues to go higher, and while it's doing that, all the colors are green. Now we have 2 or 3 red bars, okay? Does this mean we're going lower? No, because the trend is still going upwards. The majority of bars are still green. And we have our first green bar after a series of red. So that's another buy. So if you had missed this very first buy signal, well, guess what? The market gave you another chance to get in, and you could have caught all of this ride to the upside. Now we have a series of 3 to 5 or actually 6 or 7 red bars. Are we going lower? Well, we could be, but for all intents and purposes, there are still more green bars than there are red. So we have another first green bar following that, and we continue to go higher. Now, had you taken that very first setup, it would have been 20 points to the upside for you to take advantage of. Now, we're not talking about exits in this particular presentation. We're not talking about placing your stop to ride the trade up. I know that'll probably be one of your questions at the end of the presentation, like, Steve, this is great. Where do I get out? Or where exactly do I enter? The next bar, or do I put a limit in there? Remember, that's another webinar. All we're talking about today is being able to spot these high probability entry points using the PET-D. We're just talking about one piece of the puzzle today. We're not talking about exits. I mean, some traders like to get in and out, a couple of points, and they're out. They move on to the next one. Where other traders will try to get as much bang for their buck and try to squeeze as much profit as possible. Remember, our job is not to tell you where to exit. That's not our job. Our job is to simply furnish you with different exit plans, different variables. It's your job to be in control of your trading. And that's what we provide you with, different variables so that you can, for the first time, be in charge of your own trading destiny. Once again, this is my belief in how the only way one will become a consistent trader, by taking charge of your own trading. We simply, as an educator, provide you with the tools and techniques to do so. Now, what if you want to sell? What if you like to buy puts? What if you like to go short the actual stock? Remember, it's up to you. This is not a system that says you have to purchase puts or you have to purchase some type of negative spread with options. We don't care how you enter. It's entirely up to you. But in a downtrend, when you see price of whatever market you're trading, it could be a 5-minute chart of the E-mini, could be a monthly chart of the Australian dollar. It makes no difference. But in a downtrend, you're going to see a small amount of green bars. They're going to appear from time to time. This is simply a little reaction. This is simply a little bump in price, many times a pullback to the upside in a downtrend. Now, the very next red bar that occurs after those green bars is your confirmation for a sell entry, okay? Remember, this is simple. We're not having to figure out price estimations, or we're not having to figure out, earnings reports, or we're not having to decipher what some guy said the support and resistance levels were based off what the institutions are doing. I mean, why do we overcomplicate our trading so much? I mean, we get in our own way. Keep it simple, and you will become a more consistent trader. So, as we see here, someone would say, well, Steve, I'm having trouble finding out if I'm in an uptrend or a downtrend. Well, usually the rule of thumb is once you apply the PET-D, the majority of the color of the bar will tell you what the trend is. So as we look here on our PTS Primo charting platform, we simply click on PET-D, the colors automatically change. And what's the majority of bars that are colored here, green or red? Obviously they're colored red. So that's telling you the trend is down. And someone could say, well, Steve, how can the trend be down? We're just going sideways. Look at that blue arrow. We're not going anywhere. We're in a range. Remember, this is the way we've always been taught. Let's look at the range. Look at the oscillators. Look at the volume. We can't be in a trend. We've never learned to listen to the market, but our translator, the PET-D, is telling us, no, the trend is down. That's what I want to do. I want to go lower. So the market always knows what it wants to do. Why don't we just listen to the market? So the market's telling us it wants to go lower by a propensity of red bars here. We have a series of just 2 green bars followed by our very first red bar. So the rule of thumb is you go short or you sell on the very first red bar. All right. Now, do we know how low this will go? Absolutely not. That's why we furnish you with different exit plans in the courses. If you want to get in and out quickly, if you want to move your stop to unchanged, if you want to squeeze as much profit as possible, it's up to you, because we have no idea how low it'll go or for how long. But in this case, if you had sold here, well, Pepsi dropped 10 points in 1 month. Okay, you could have taken full advantage of 10 quick points to the downside. Okay, so that is the basic entry technique. Let's look at some stock examples. And just the majority of our students and our members around the world trade stocks, but I'll also show you some futures examples in the E-mini. I'll also show you some currency pair examples. I'll even show you a Bitcoin example that happened this past week, okay? And remember, if you have any questions, if you happen to join us late, remember, we're only taking questions at the very end, and we're just talking about the entry technique in terms of what you should be looking for. where you decide to enter, where you decide to exit, where you decide to place your stop. All that information, all of those other pieces of the puzzle are given in our courses. We're not discussing those today. We're just sharing with you this high probability point of entry. Okay, so let's begin. We're looking at RTN here. Now this is difficult to figure out because we were going up, but now it looks like we're really curling over, right? We must have hit a top here. Maybe all the institutions are selling. That program and that class I took for $5,000 tells me that the institutions don't like this, so we should get out of this, right? This is how most people trade. You're listening to someone or something else. What is the market telling us? All we have to do is click on PET D. The colors automatically change. And what are the majority of the bars colored? They're colored green. So the market is telling us we're still in an uptrend. Now we have 2 red bars flashing here, followed by a green bar. And then we have 1 red bar followed by another green bar. So those are both buy setups. Now how you decide to enter is up to you. You can enter on the close of that bar. You can wait for it to trade on the next bar. It's up to you. We show you different variables. But once again, we're not talking about exact entry points yet. We're just sharing with you high probability spots. So you could have purchased here. This was in the very first week of February, RTN, and the stock gained 16 points in the next 2 weeks. Did we have any idea it was going to go up that much? Absolutely not. It's entirely up to you how much profit you wanted to take out of that 16-point gain. Okay? Let's look at eBay. All right? This was in mid-January coming into February of this month. Once again, someone looking at this will say, well, Steve, we've been going up, but it looks like, there's a big gap down here, a strong move to the downside, closing towards a low, and we haven't really done anything. So it looks like we're just kind of hitting resistance, right? The institutions are selling up here. The volume really picked up to the downside right up at that level. So I think this is going much lower. In fact, the trading room I subscribe to says that you have to sell this. Once again, this is why we don't have trading rooms at Specialist Trading and Pro Trader Strategies. This is why we don't believe in all the common things that you've been taught to trade, such as looking at what the institutions are doing, looking at volume, looking at support and resistance, looking at an array of too many technical indicators, listening to fundamental news. If you want to look and decide that those things would help you, that's fine. We're not here to tell you can't do that. But those things are in no way required. Once again, why make things so complicated? Let's just listen to what the market is telling us. We click on the PET D, and what are the majority of bars colored? They're colored green. And we have a short series of red bars here, followed by 1 green bar. So the market hasn't hit any resistance. The institutions are not selling, or if they are, they're wrong once again. Trust me, I used to track the institutions over 40 years ago. They didn't help me make any money then, so why would they help me now? Okay? Why would some $10,000 system help you? It's not about you. Why not just listen to the market? The very first green bar is our buy setup. Now, how we decide to enter is up to us, but this was just last month in January, and right off the bat, well, we went up a little bit. That wasn't a bad little trade there. Now, you could have gotten out very quickly with a nice little profit or stayed in, and as we can see, eBay jumped up coming into February and had a nice 10-point gain here. Do we have any reason to sell this? No, because if the bars are colored green, what's the market telling us? It's telling us it wants to go higher. Let's look at MAXR. Once again, if you like to look at support and resistance, Fibonacci support, all these institutional levels, by all means, go ahead. Is there any consistency in that? No. Take it from someone who traded this 4 decades ago. There's no consistency, in my opinion, in using those methods. So that's why I don't teach them, nor do I trade them. If I did, I probably would have stopped trading years ago. So my mentors taught me the same thing I'm teaching you now. There's no need or no reason to focus on those things. There's just a small percentage of traders who are able to consistently make profits, but the majority of traders, myself included, find support and resistance too subjective. One trader's support is another trader's resistance. What time frame are we looking at? There's just too many variables. Why not just listen to the market? Whereas someone could say, well, Steve, this is major support. You've got to buy this, right? Well, what color are the majority of the bars? They are red. We have a splash of green here, then followed by another splash of green, and then followed by a red. So we have a sell here and a sell here. So the market is telling us this is not a support. This is simply a ledge waiting for prices to go lower. If you want to join me, you're more than welcome to, because that's what the PET D is translating. And it would have been a very good idea to do so because the stock fell 17 points coming into the next month, coming into this last week here in February. Okay, we had no idea it was going this low. We had no reason why it was going low. We were just listening to the market. And the beauty of this technique is that if you happen to miss these very first two setups, the market is often giving you a second, sometimes a third chance to get in, like right here. Right before this gap down, you could have sold on the close, bought the puts, whatever you wanted to do, and taken advantage of the nice gap down opening the next day. Let's look at MANH, okay? Obviously, we're in an uptrend. This was coming into a long time ago, I believe December of last year, about 3-4 months ago. But as we can see, we're in an uptrend. Obviously, we're in an uptrend. The majority of the bars are green. We have one red bar, followed by our very first green bar, all right? Someone, I'm sure, would say, well, okay, Steve, do I enter the next day? Do I enter on the close? Do I place a lower limit? Sure, whatever you want. Remember, you're in charge. To see how the very first thing you've been trained to do is ask someone, what do I do? Okay, that's what we're trained to do. We're always trained basically to say, I don't know how to trade, but you do. Tell me what to do. And that's the recipe for a disaster. That's why 80% of all traders fail, because we're trained to think that somebody else can do it for us. Once you put the power in your hands, that's when you start to become a consistent trader. And that's what I'm trying to do with the help of Pro Trader Strategies and our PTS Primo charting platform, is to make things simple so that it's right there in front of you so that you can make an easy decision on your own. There's no chat rooms, there's no support and resistance, there's no volume you have to follow, there's no earnings reports if you don't want to. All right? So all we need to do is know that we had our very first green bar here. So that's our first buy in December of last year. 10 quick points to the upside. Okay, and you could have taken advantage of that. You could have gotten out with a 1 or 2 point gain or tried to squeeze as many points as possible. Let's say you got out with a 5-point gain. Nice trade, right? Nice trade. Okay, now here it is coming into February. All right, and look what happens. Well, we have a series of red bars. Now you think, boy, this is right around where I exited. I'm going to get back in because I think the market's going higher. And this is just some type of support level, because I know Steve says there's no need to focus on support, but you know, I still go to that chat room and they say this is major support here. So I got to buy this. I'm going to buy it back and maybe I'll have another profitable trade. Remember, what's the rule using this technique? We cannot buy until we have our very first green bar. Now, sure, this is not telling us that we're going lower, but it's not also telling us to enter as well. So we have to wait for a green bar. But the way most traders trade is, remember, we're always taught buy low, sell high. So when you see prices come low, you're always looking to get a cheap discount, right? So let's just say you forgot all the rules and said, I'm going to buy here. I can't wait for Steve's first green bar. This is a really cheap, inexpensive price. So this is the first week of February, and we all know what happened after that. Now, using this technique, would you have gotten in a second time? No, because there was no green bar. All the bars were red. So this is what we mean by the simplicity, but the power behind the PET D. It's simply translating what the market wants to do on a tick-by-tick basis, and all you have to do is listen. So if a green bar was not generated, there's no reason to enter into it because it's telling you it wanted to go lower. Here's another example the same way, CVS. Okay, the trend is obviously up. If we see right here, we had our first down day at the end of January. Once again, someone could say, gosh, Steve, we opened lower, closed higher. Okay, I got to buy it, but then look what happened, all right? Once again, this is our first example we share with you at the opening of today's presentation. This is the way 99.9% of traders trade. We're going to a chat room and someone's saying, you got to buy this stock. It opened lower, then closed towards its high. That's a reversal, right? Not really. According to the PET D, we never had a red bar followed by a green bar. So there was no reason to even buy this. Remember, the entry plan would say if you're in an uptrend, you'll see a series of red bars. The first green bar is your point of entry. Well, we had a series of red bars, but there was no green bar. And now we are in a full-fledged downtrend. So there's no reason to even buy. Let's look at different time frames in different market as well. Here are the QQQs, all right, the ETF that represents the NASDAQ 100. Looking back to December of 2016, coming into January, over a year ago, on a weekly time frame, the market was telling you over a year ago it wanted to go higher. All right. So many people love to say, gosh, the market went up in 2017. I had no idea. Well, the reason why you had no idea is because you're listening to someone or something else tell you how to trade. If you had listened to the market, we knew well in advance that all the bars were green. And if you weren't in, well, you would simply wait for a couple of red bars, and then the very first green bar here would have been your entry. All right. You could have purchased right here and look at the market going up higher. And if you missed that, well, here was one red bar followed by another green bar. That's your point of entry, all right? And now you had the really nice run towards the end of the year. Now, this is what happened in February, all right? Or I should say this was at the very end of January. The very end of January coming into February, we had our first red bar. And look what has happened after that, our first green bar. So if you wanted to use this technique, let's just say you wanted to use it as a directional tool, the market is not telling you at this point that it's going lower on a weekly time frame. We had our very first red bar, a green bar right here, so that was giving us a signal to get in if we wanted to. Now, is this guaranteed to work 100%? Absolutely not. It doesn't work all the time, all right? That's okay. It's a high probability and a very consistent entry technique. Nothing works 100% of the time. I'm not here to be like other presenters telling you we have a foolproof method that you'll never lose. Don't believe in that. It will have small losses from time to time, but we teach you in our courses how to move your stops up, how to exit or a part of your position to at least have a profit if you have some. This is all different variables that we teach you, but ultimately it's up to you to decide how you want to implement the trade. Now that was the last buy signal, was just generated at the beginning of this month. Had you taken this first one here in July of last year, well, that would have been 28 points to the upside. Now that's a weekly chart of the QQQs. Here's a weekly chart of GE. Obviously, this stock has been getting killed this past year. This is from January of 2017 all the way up into February. If you were looking for a stock to short, I can't think of a better example. Now, I'm not saying you would have shorted if you want to get puts, or let's just say you were long this stock. Well, I can't think of a better way to get out because we're obviously have a lot of consecutive red bars. So we knew well in advance in April that we were in a downtrend. So there's no reason to be long when you're in a downtrend. That's like swimming against the current. Why would you want to do that? So if the current is going lower, you don't want to be long. You don't want to buck the trend. So you could have used this to exit your position where you had your very first green bar and you think, well, maybe the trend will change, but it's followed by a red bar. So that's telling you to exit. You could have saved yourself an extra 14 points all the way to the downside. Now, if you wanted to look to sell, well, here was another example where you could have gone in to sell at the beginning of January. Okay? Now, that's a weekly chart of GE. Let's look at some other markets just to stop focusing on stocks because we know that not everyone just trades stocks. Let's look at an hourly chart of the E-mini futures. This is what I trade. I don't necessarily trade hourly charts, but I mainly focus on E-mini futures because of my schedule. It allows me time to intraday trade. Now, this was just going back this past week, the 22nd, 23rd of February. Obviously, we're in an uptrend, but we didn't know we were in an uptrend. How could we have found out? Well, we click on the PET-D and all the bars change color. Now, the majority of the bars are colored green. We have a splash here of two reds followed by our first green. So what is that? That's a buy signal. And guess what? Another one here, and still another one here on the 26th of February, okay? Now, had you taken the very first one, that was just 72 points in your favor in 3 days, over $3,600 per contract if you had decided to, get as much bang for your buck. If you wanted to just take that hourly bar and get out in the next hour, maybe take a point or two, that would have been fine too. Remember, we're not here to tell you how to trade. We just pinpoint high probability entry points for you and let you decide how you want to execute it. You're in charge of your own trading. That's our credo, not us. That was an hourly chart of the E-mini. Let's go to the Swiss franc, all right, for all you currency pair traders. Once again, people would say, well, Steve, gosh, I gotta buy this, the Swiss franc. Look at the major support here, all right? There was some really great economic news that came out, and this thing has had some major support. I've looked at the Fibonacci retracement levels, and this is going back years where you have to buy this, all right? Okay, let's see how well that worked. Because we don't look at that. If you want to, you can, but the only thing we do is listen to the market. What's the market telling us? Well, we add the PET-D, and the market's telling us the majority of bars here are red. So what's the market saying? It's not saying this is any support. It's saying you're in a downtrend. How can you have support in a downtrend? All right, you should only have resistance in a downtrend. So what we have here is just a quick bounce. We have our first green bar followed by a red bar. So what's the entry technique? The entry technique is to go short to sell on the first red bar. So rather than listening to all the guys in the chat room or some guy on TV who knows everything about support and resistance or about volume or about economic numbers for currency pairs, why not just listen to the market? The market's telling you it wants to go lower. You could have sold the Swiss franc in January, just a month or two ago, and that was nearly 600 pips to the downside. Did we have any idea it was going to go down this low? Absolutely not. We just listened to the market. So you could have exited with a quick 30 pip gain or maybe try to stay in for as long as possible. It's entirely up to you. And the beauty is once you have this really strong trends in any direction, the market will usually give you a second chance. Here was another chance here just a week or two ago to go short again. And then lastly, Bitcoin. All right, Bitcoin was the market favorite just a month or two ago, but then it's fallen out of favor because of the strong volatility to the downside. It seems to be firming up a bit. And let me share with you the daily chart of Bitcoin. All right, someone looking at this will say, here's where the sell-off concluded. Now we're starting to go up, but is this just a bounce before we go lower? Well, no one knows yet. But what is the market telling us right now? Well, we click on Pet D, and we were in a downtrend because of the high propensity of red bars, but all of a sudden, look at the amount of green bars. Roughly 9 bars to the upside. So that's telling us most likely we've switched sides now. We're starting to go higher. Now we had one down day followed by a green bar, 2 down bars, red bars followed by another green bar. So this just happened a couple of days ago, this past week. So are we guaranteeing you that Bitcoin is going to skyrocket? Absolutely not. But right now, the market is translating that Bitcoin wants to go higher. Do we know how high? Absolutely not. Maybe go up a few basis points and that'll be it. Could it change its mind? Sure. The market is very fickle. The market can change tomorrow and say, you know what? We're going straight down again. And you'll see it as represented with the Pat D. Our job as a trader is simply to listen to the market and then follow whatever it wants to do. Jump on board. Our job is not to determine how high a market will go. It's not to determine how low a market will go. That's silly. No one knows that. Our job is not to figure out economic reports. That's ridiculous. I mean, it's like leave long-term economists that job. That's not our job. Our job as a trader is simply to listen to what the market wants to do and then jump on board. That's it. If it wants to go higher, we're going to go higher. If it wants to go lower, we're going to go lower with it. We're not going to put our own ego in its way and say how high or how low it'll go. That is a recipe for disaster from someone who used to trade that way 40 years ago. And as I stated earlier, if it didn't work 40 years ago, it's not about to work now. Okay, so let's recap before we answer your questions, okay? Remember, this I share with you a simple but high probability and extremely uncomplicated entry technique for trading virtually any market and or time frame. But here are some extremely important points to remember. Remember that this is not a complete strategy. All we did was just pinpoint a high probability entry level. That's all we did. We did not talk about your entry signals in terms of where exactly are you going to get in. I know a lot of you are saying, well, Steve, do I enter on the next day? Do I enter on the close? Do I place a lower limit? What do I do? Well, that's all discussed in the courses. Also, we didn't discuss stop placement. Extremely important. As I stated earlier, not every one of these entry signals is going to be a winner. So you have to protect yourself, all right? There are a number of ways in which to do that, but we didn't discuss that. We also did not discuss in any way, shape, or form how to get out. Now, many of the examples I share with you had 10, 20, 30 points in your favor, but would you have stayed in that time? I mean, how do you exit? Well, we share with you numerous exit points, different levels for you to take advantage of. It's up to you where you want to get out. It's not up to us. These are not systems. These are just techniques for showing you how to enter, how to exit, and how to place your stop. And then lastly, and most importantly, we didn't talk about money management. We never talked about, how many shares, how many contracts should you be purchasing or selling? Should you be, have a small account, a large account? We didn't talk about any of these things. These are all extremely important pieces of the puzzle that go up into making a trading plan. All we did was talk about one piece of the puzzle today, which is how to spot and identify this entry technique. All right, we didn't talk about entries, exits, stop placement, or money management. So as we conclude here, I want you to ask yourself a question before you ask me questions, and ask yourself honestly. We just concluded February of 2018. In fact, today is the last day, all right? Do you think this technique could help your trading going forward for the remainder of the year? Honestly, ask your question. Are you anywhere near to where you thought you'd be in the second month of the year? Are you towards your goals and aspirations where you wanted to be? Here's your chance to get on board to finish 2018, to hopefully finish out March, April, May, June, the first half of the year with a strong determination of really meeting those goals. We're going to offer you a great attendee discount, upwards of 30%, I believe, on today's promotion. We're going to offer you the Pet D. This is where you'll be able to execute and know all the rules and different entry points for this particular method. We call this our roadmap for any market because that's what it virtually is. It's a roadmap telling you what the market wants to do at that current moment. This is going to come with 2 continuation trading techniques, 2 pullback techniques, a stop technique. And remember, you can apply this to virtually any market, any strategy, and any time frame. Now, let me share with you, I can't give you the complete rules to this because it's in the course, but I know a lot of you are saying, well, Steve, what happens when you see something like this? This is a 15-minute chart of the E-mini, okay? Okay, so you say, well, okay, Steve, I learned that lesson of that entry technique, but when I click on the Pet D, all right, here's what happens. Every bar is green. And so the market never gives me a chance to get in. Well, remember, that was just one entry technique. There are dozens of different ways to apply the Pet D. And one of the ways is taught in the course where you would have been able to enter at all of these points right here. So even if you're not using the entry technique I shared with you today, there are dozens of other techniques where you could have applied and you could have taken advantage of this when there are no red bars. Or as we look at the Canadian dollar here, you say, well, okay, looking in hindsight, as you're studying and researching the material, you go, okay, let me add the Pet D and see where I could have entered using that technique Steve talked about in the webinar. So you click on the Pet D, and all the bars are red. Once again, the technique I share with you in the course could have still got you in here, 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 where you potentially would have been able to capture 800 pips to the downside. So you don't need that up green bar in order to get in. There are lots of other techniques you can apply as well. Or here's a weekly chart of the Bitcoin. Remember when the Bitcoin was just taking off, it was going up like crazy? Well, you apply the Pet D and you see that that Bitcoin was green the entire way up, even before it started to scream to the upside. Using this other technique that we share with you in the course, you had 3 chances to enter on a weekly time frame. So there's just not this one technique. There are a lot more other techniques in the course. And remember, we call them techniques because these are not full-fledged strategies or systems. The Pet D is not a trading method. It's simply a high probability tool for listening to what the market wants to do on a tick-by-tick basis. So you're going to get this roadmap for any market. One thing we didn't talk about is that you're also going to get yours truly, myself, as an educational mentor. So you can correspond with me anytime you'd like through email. You get my private email address, and you can ask me questions whenever you have them come up, and I'll answer them as soon as possible. This is all included in the course. Now, usually this course will roughly run upwards of, I believe, about $4,000. Well, we're not just going to stop there. We're going to also throw in our platform, the PTS Primo charts. This is the trading educational portal that you've been searching for. So we're not even going to charge you anywhere close to that, and we're going to throw in some more things. Here's what's included in your PTS Primo charts. We're going to give you the buy-sell line. That's another proprietary tool that tells you what side of the market to be on. You can use that in conjunction with the Pet D. The buy-sell line will tell you the overall trend. The Pet D tells you the short-term trend. So rather than looking at a daily time frame to make sure that the hourly chart is in sync with the daily chart, you can just simply apply the buy-sell line with the Pet D, and you'll know that the overall and the short-term trend are in sync. We're also going to throw in a trading strategy. This is great for capturing those very strong, powerful trending markets, any market, any direction. That's Trading Strategy 3A. You'll get all the rules to this, and you'll get the up and down green arrows that show you when a signal has been generated. We're also going to throw in the scanner. All right, so any night you come home from work, you want to see what the next signals are for the next day. In less than probably 1 minute, you'll find out through the NASDAQ 100 or the S&P or the top ETFs or currency pairs what are the signals for the very next day. All right, 2 proprietary entry techniques. Many of our students have a very difficult time entering the markets. This is not based off the Pet D. This is based off totally different proprietary tools here, and we're going to throw those in so you can apply them to any strategy, any technique. So let's say you have a method that already has stop placement, already has exit levels, already has the market trend identified. You just need an entry point that's really going to increase your odds for success. That's what we have provided here for you. Now, we also have over 90 technical indicators if you'd like to apply more indicators, and we also have live Bloomberg TV. So if you really feel you must listen to economic news, to fundamental information, we have it live here right on your chart. And personalized tech support. So for any reason you're having difficulty with charts or building a chart or actually applying the Pet D, you can contact our tech support and they'll address the issue in a matter of moments, okay? We're going to give you all of this included with the Pet D. So 12 months of the PTS Primo charts absolutely free. There's no extra charge. You're going to get 12 months of this for free. That's an amazing, amazing deal here. Usually when we offer the Pet D, we just give anywhere from 2 weeks to a month trial. Here, you're getting an actual year of the Pet D, or I should say of the Pet D. Well, it's yours for life, but the PTS Primo charts included. Now, this is our roadmap for any market. Usually, just the Pet D alone would cost you close to $4,000. We're slashing that down to $29.95, okay, with 12 months of the PTS Primo charting platform, okay, and yours truly as your personal mentor. So here's how to take advantage of this. Contact my sister site, Pro Trader Strategies. They handle all of my discounts and courses and marketing and promotions. You can email them at trading@protraderstrategies.com or call them directly for any questions at 310-598-6677. Now that link at the very bottom will take you to the discounted sign-up page for $29.95 with the 12-month PTS Primo charting platform. It's not live, but we have posted a live link in your chat box on the far right-hand corner. So if you want to take advantage of that, simply click on the link in the chat box on the far right-hand corner, and it will answer more questions, show you more information, some more examples of the Pet D in action, as well as the PTS Primo charting platform. I'm going to leave all this information up here so that you can copy it down or call and the number provided. Remember, if you have any questions concerning the discount or using the PTS Primo charts, contact Pro Trader Strategies. They can answer any question you have about that. And I'll leave that information up while I answer your questions on what we discussed today, okay? So PW is asking, so we buy at a green bar. Yes, well, remember, the plan is, let me just state this again. The plan is for this particular technique. Remember, we're just sharing with you one of the many dozens of different techniques that we teach. And in our courses, we even teach other entirely different techniques as well. It's all up to you which ones you want to decide to apply. But in this particular technique, what you would do is wait for an uptrend, okay? Now, you can see that the markets are going higher, but if you don't know that you're in an uptrend, let's say prices is going sideways, you simply click on the Pet D, and if the majority of the bars are green, well, you know you're in an uptrend. Now, you'll see maybe 2, 3, 5 red bars, and if there's a green bar, the first green bar after that red series, that's your buy setup. All right, now, how you decide to get in is up to you, but once again, that's in the course, but that's the high probability point of entry, okay? Just reverse it for going short. Let's see, Michael saying a few weeks ago, I attended a webinar using Strategy 4. The webinar was based on making a trade based on a stock being able to above the 50 and most recent candles close being the last 20 high or low 25, okay? In today's seminar, I see buy and sell signals being provided that do not meet. Well, Michael, I think I just said that maybe 2 seconds ago. I don't know when you asked this question. We have a number of different techniques and entry points. Which ones you decide are up to you. Remember, as I stated in the very beginning, it's not our job to trade for you. Our job is to provide you high probability setups. Is there just one way to trade? No, there are a different way. There are different ways to listen to the market. We provided one for you today. In the previous webinar, that was based off of a strategy, a full-fledged strategy that came with about 5 rules, okay? There are different ways. In other words, look at the markets like an ocean, okay? Think of the market, the Dow Jones, the S&P 500 as a huge ocean, all right? Now, is there only one way to cross that ocean? Could someone say do it on a 18-foot Victory sailboat? Someone could also do it on an ocean liner. You could also do it on a raft if you were so inclined. It's up to you how you decide to do it. Each one of those different options will cross the ocean or cross the river, whatever you want. But there are different ways in which to do it. Some work differently. Some will be slower, some will be quicker, some are more powerful, some are more relaxing, some are more intense. It all depends on what type of a trader you are and what you like or what makes you feel comfortable. Our job is not to tell you, well, these are the rules, you must follow them every night. That's, once again, a recipe for disaster. Our job in these weekly webinars and in our courses is to provide you with high probability information and setups. It's your job to go through them and then decide what works best for you, okay? They're all going to have high probabilities, just as they're all going to be different ways to cross the ocean. It's up to you on which type of journey you want to take. Okay, I hope that answers your question, but that, everyone must find their own way in which they want to trade. A lot of people are asking about the PET D. Does it change intra-bar? That's a good question. First of all, the PET D never repaints, if that's what you're asking. I know there are a lot of indicators and a lot of systems out there where you'll see bars colored green or red or purple or gray or whatever. And then you think, okay, well, that's giving me some type of signal. That's giving me some type of cue or some information. And then you follow that, and then you go back and look maybe a few hours later or even a day later, and the bar is a different color. That's called repainting, because what happens is going forward, the system or the method takes into the future calculations and then it reevaluates what it did. We don't believe in that, and plus that the PET D never does that. So to make a long story short, no, you never have to worry about that. So whatever bar you're looking at, whether it's a candlestick, standard open, high, low, close, once that bar closes, in other words, if it's based off 5 minutes, once that 5 minutes is concluded, or if it's a daily chart, once that day is ended, the day session, that color stays forever. It will never change. So you never have to worry about a color being repainted or changing. And then all of a sudden you go back and you say, why did I enter? Oh, now it's the green bar is now back to red. It never does that. Now, on a different note, while the bar is still open, let's say you're looking at an hourly chart of the E-mini futures. Now, while that bar has not concluded yet, while the hour is not over, you may see the PET D change every once in a while colors from red to green, depending on the calculation. But that may, it doesn't happen very intensely, but every once in a while you may see a few ticks red and then it turns back to green. That's okay, but remember, all we're waiting for is the close of the bar. That's where the setups take place, off of the close, okay? Let's see, people are asking, some people have already purchased and they've had the 3-month plan with the PTS Primo charts. Can they be switching over? Yes, contact Pro Trader Strategies. I don't know what their particular, they handle all the promotions and the discounts, but contact them or contact your personal trading consultant. I'm sure he can work something out with you, okay? If you're a pre-established customer, we would be more than happy to work with you, okay? Once again, they handle all that portion of our sales, where I'm strictly teaching and trading aspect. They handle all the discounts and anything such as tech support, okay? Okay, any more questions? Let's see, once again, will this be recorded? Yes, it is. So we stated at the very beginning, if you have to leave early or if you're having technical difficulties, don't worry, we will provide everyone with a link to this recording today. But please remember that this offer is not going to last for long. I believe the price may go back up to roughly about $4,000. So if you're thinking about, interested in having the PET D for life, that's going to be yours. It's not like a lease that expires in a couple of months and you have to renew, or it's not something that will be reworked. It's yours for life at this low price. Take advantage of it. Contact Pro Trader Strategies, plus that 12 months free of our platform. That's an amazing offer. As you can see here, someone just commented that they purchased one of our strategies, or a couple of them, and only got 3 months of the PET D, or I should say the PTS Primo chart. So that's a really great offer right there for $29.95. In conclusion, I hope you got something out of this today. I hope you saw the attention to detail we give in strictly trying to educate you and trying to share with you our philosophy for trading. I know it's a little bit different from others, but go and do a Google search on Pro Trader Strategies or on Specialist Trading. You'll see all the satisfied customers of people that have been trading for years or people that just started trading that have become consistent for the very first time. Our goal is strictly to educate you. We're an educational company where all we want to do is provide you with tools, techniques, methods, strategies that have stood the test of time. And I'll be your mentor along the way, there to answer any question that you may have. Thank you so much for joining us today. And people are asking, does this work on any time frame? Yes, it does. 2 minutes and 5 minutes. I was using it on tick charts this morning, Christine, so don't worry. It can be applied to any time frame you're looking at. We have traders who use this on 1 minute charts. We also have traders that use it on monthly bars. Makes no difference, okay? So thank you so much for attending today. I wish you the best of luck, but more importantly, I look forward to all of you becoming students of mine at the PET D course. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.